the Starlink as much because it's, usage based instead
Yeah,
of
the mini is usage based, not just open subscription.
correct. Well, you can get the open subscription, but it's, $150 a month versus $50 a month.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it works really good, especially when you're out in the water.
That's pretty cool. All right. Well, hey, welcome everybody. First, for those that were at Kaseya Connect, it was so good to see you guys all. So Andy, Michael, Chip, Ben,
Enrique.
We saw Tina, who
Andy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Andrew and Andy. There you go.
Yeah. Lee Ron. Saw Lee Ron.
Yeah.
Adam, I saw you.
Or you were there, weren't you?
No, all the cool people are at the Kaseya, and they threw me in San Francisco dealing with the human feces on the sidewalk at RSA.
I thought.
I'm sorry. So security isn't helpful there, huh?
I thought the feces count was down this year, Corey.
Yeah, they cleaned up anything north of the Moscone Center, anything south they didn't touch. And it's so funny how the locals were like, "Isn't it so much better here? We have a new mayor." And I'm like, I just watched some guy cuss out like 20 cops every block. I just, last night I saw a guy in a wheelchair trying to run someone over and then started pepper spraying the guy. But yes, I only passed one human feces on the sidewalk. So I guess it's better. Hey. But yeah, I heard Kaseya was a lot more fun.
It was good. I'll have to say I thought for those that were there, did any of you guys see Gary Pica do the wing
hot wings?
Hot wings. Did you guys see that? Do you guys know about this guy? Sean?
He's like my favorite guy to watch on YouTube.
Oh my God.
If you never watched the hot ones on YouTube,
ones,
that is the one to watch. Like the best interviewer ever. He gets celebrities and it's open dialogue. It's so good.
He was great. I had not known about him. And so, to Corey's point, if you haven't seen this guy, Sean, what's his last name?
Evans, I think.
Evans. Thank you. You're right, Andy. Phenomenal interviewer.
Yeah.
I watched him. So Gary Pica stepped up to the challenge, and basically, for those that haven't seen this, you're getting interviewed, right? The guy's a very thoughtful interviewer, and the way it works is you have 10 wings with increasingly
chicken wings,
and it's a scope. What's the count again for those that know this?
Up to like 10,000 or 200,000 Scovilles.
Scoville. Yeah. It's over 100,000 the last one. And the funniest one, last thing I'll say about this is watch the second one with Kevin Hart. Have you seen that, Corey? So Kevin Hart was one of his first guests and then he came back for his 10th year. I didn't even know it was going on this long, Corey, but 10 years this guy's been doing this. And it was absolutely hysterically funny. Chip, any big takeaways for you? I think the big, as a third party, I will say, and someone that's attended a lot of Kaseya Connects, I would say this is by far the most, in the last few years, the most positive vibes that I have felt and seen people being very optimistic about, the Kaseya community.
Yeah. I'd have to agree. I mean, this is the first Connect Global that I've been to. And it reminded me of, I'm going to age myself here, but of the very heady pre-dot-com boom days or bust days when, the parties were just outrageously fun. The big conventions were a blast. So I really enjoyed it. I had my own security detail. Tina and her stepdaughter stepped up and made sure that they were towering over and no one could get near her. Tina was dressed as Xena the Warrior Princess on the last night, which is pretty funny. Corey, I think you have either a twin brother or a doppelganger out there. When I got to the airport, there's a dude that looked exactly like you in a Marines shirt, sitting eating lunch across the table, not across the table, but across the restaurant. And I kept looking at this guy, making eye contact with him. And he must have thought by the end of it that I was some kind of freak.
You should have just gone up, given a big hug from behind, right? and be like Corey. I mean, just make it full awkward. Might as well.
I was just about to do it, but I think he was so uncomfortable. I was staring at him that he like rushed through his meal and then ran away.
Well, any Marine rushes through their mirror no matter what. So
I'm telling you, the guy was your spitting image.
That's so
Right down to the beard color, like everything.
There's handsome guys everywhere. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
So yet another thing we have to worry about security is someone who looks just like us, right? That there you
Yeah.
go.
Corey has a legit doppelganger out in the universe. But I thought it was a great event, Andrew. I spent a lot of time talking to customers direct, and obviously there's so many partners in the Kaseya ecosystem that I wouldn't know anything about. So I was just walking up to people and introducing myself and asking questions, and learned a lot. I thought it was a really good event, really put on well.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and one more, just like Leron, was that your first? And if so, like, you did a great job, and I know you had a lot of stuff that you had to do. How was it for you, bud?
It was a very interesting experience. First time in Vegas, first time in Connect, first time speaking in front of that many people. Lots of firsts there. It was a great experience overall.
Very cool. Yeah, good for you, man, to do that. That was pretty awesome.
Did you guys hear about the booth in front of the Kaseya booth at RSA?
No.
Literally goats. So they had a glass pen, and it had a bunch of goats in there. That was someone's booth. It was some company that they're the goat of something, but it was perfect. So I was jealous that the Kaseya people got to sit there and just hang out with the goats all day.
The goat. That is great.
That's
well,
sick.
I'm going to leave the farm animal conversation out of this call. And let's move into some wins of the week. Jim is at a board meeting today, can't visit us. But yeah, anyone want to start off with some wins of the week? Anyone have exciting stuff? Enrique.
We could not leave Kaseya Connect without being the #1 win of the week. As soon as I was about to board a plane to leave Vegas, I get a call from RocketCyber that a customer's computer is talking to Russia via Tor. And I'm like, well, what exactly is going on? And give me more detail. And so I'm trying to understand what they're trying to tell me. And I'm like, you know what? Just isolate the machine. And I reached out to the help desk and let them know, hey guys, we just isolated this machine. So I'm boarding a flight. Not sure we're going to have Wi-Fi, but which we did not. Make sure you start looking into it. So as I'm sitting in the plane, I opened up my little tablet phone and log into RocketCyber. What was a PowerShell command? That apparently there's proof point documented it because someone shared on a call last Friday or the following day a link to click fix. So the guy was trying to download music, and it told him to download your music, hit Control R, click here, and hit Control V. And it was a PowerShell command that was built with a whole bunch of random characters that at the end of the day ended up to be h.rodeo/something. And the guy started downloading his music as he thought. So yeah, we were able to isolate. At the end of the day, we were not able to remove. We had to wipe the machine with AmiBot and just clean it, get it back up and running. But yeah, so that was a good win.
Wow, good. Tina, just real quick, wasn't that the similar command set that you had something similar though? I know it was classified, but was it you that they were doing like a command prompt, they saying to do something like that, or am I wrong?
Yep, that was the same as our clients. We had 2 of them a couple weeks ago. We talked about it.
Yeah. So this is it's interesting, the tradecraft, right? Even though it's slightly, a different attack, the tradecraft, right? Chip, you see just similar sets, if you will, if you think about it from a statistics or mathematical fractal type thing, just using the same thing but in different ways.
Yeah, but also you'd expect if something new or old but new again is going to get put into play, you're going to see it in a lot of places, especially if it's a group like APT29 or whoever that's behind it. That's one of the Russian or Chinese groups. They're not going to go on one-offs, right? Unless they're still in testing phase. So you would see a lot of it.
is this a good example of why you want to suppress command prompt and PowerShell prompts from the user? Not having them give it the option to bring those up?
Sounds like a good one to me, Andy.
And that's why we love ThreatLocker so much, because we block PowerShell from communicating with the outside world. So every time I need to install an app via PowerShell, I have to put in an exclusion in ThreatLocker to allow that specific URL. The whole notion of zero trust.
Yeah, I was gonna say like a really well architected least privilege model, right, Gary, that you're doing there.
I don't know that it's the best architected, but it works.
Yeah, no, that's good for you, man. That's literally what it's about.
Well, no, but the problem though is only a handful of our customers have embraced it, because a lot of people, like anything else, they don't want to pay for it.
Yeah.
Or they don't want to be governed by it. I mean,
they want to ride without a helmet.
I've been doing application whitelisting for years and years and years. When Bit9 was a thing, if anybody remembers them, before Carbon Black acquired them. There's so many politics involved with trying to implement zero trust from a administrative perspective. It's ridiculous. Everybody wants it, but no one wants to do it.
Yeah. Well, you said it on the webinar, right, Corey? This whole thing about usability versus always this balance, right?
Yeah, 100%.
But I think this kind of hammers home that most companies don't want to govern, right? I mean, at the end of the day, they want you to make sure everything's fine, but they don't want to take responsibility and actually, sit down with a guy like Gary. It's like, yeah, they won't pay for whatever. They don't want to have the hard conversation about what this means in their organization.
Quick question for Corey. With this turned out that EDR had its issues on that machine, but shouldn't there be some type of behavior pattern for a PowerShell command being ran where EDR can detect and
100%.
stop it or kill the process?
Well, so EDR is not meant to stop it. It's a detection tool, not a prevention tool. But yes, there's plenty of, I don't know what EDR you're using, but there's, okay, well, yeah, I mean, I feel like we use more Datto EDR than Datto EDR or Datto has. So yes, there are detection rules integrated in there. I can't remember if ours is a custom one or if it's an integrated one, but yes, EDR can easily detect that PowerShell, download through PowerShell. That's an easy one that would have accounted for this. The other aspect is looking at your preventative tool, which is your AV. There's a lot of tools out there, but not a lot of people want to implement it. Kind of like the zero trust conversation where you can restrict script usage. Great example is, does everybody need the ability to run PowerShell console? Whitelisting certain scripts or certain parent processes for those scripts and blocking everything else. But it goes into that zero trust philosophy, and not a lot of people just want to take the time to do it. So it could have been prevented, right, with the right solution correctly configured.
Thanks.
Thanks for sharing, Enrique. Were you most importantly, were you flying Spirit? You mentioned you didn't have Wi-Fi, so Frontier, Spirit, joking. Who else had a win?
The flight. The flight. You were asking about the flight.
Yeah, you said I didn't have Wi-Fi, so I was assuming it was Frontier or Spirit flight. So it
was actually, I think, United.
Oh, okay. All right. Who else? Enrique can't be the only one. Come on. No? All right.
Every week we don't have an incident, I think, is a win.
That's that's a really good point. Really good point.
That's the best win, right?
Yes.
I like it that SaaS Alert works and we don't have to, Rocket, a combination with all the other tools that we have, it just gives us a great deal of peace.
Andrew, maybe you're going to have to get a little like Flipboard score sheet and put a number of weeks since last, since last compromise incident and just flip it up.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
and then pull the slider out that says the solution for it is da 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 da. right?
All right. Let me go with Adam. Are you with us? You are with us, bud, right?
I sure hope so. Otherwise, this is a weird dream.
Let you take on over.
All right. I have like so much to talk about to the point where I don't think I can even talk about it all on this particular call. I'm gonna roll through speed run some stuff. And then who knows, maybe we'll do office hours here soon. I haven't done one of those in a while. So there's a lot. All right, so let's get rolling here. First things first, I don't know that you guys hate this as much as I do, but how many times do you hit a report and get the 50,000 limit and want to like punch a baby? So sad face. Liron and I were on a call the other day, and he said, why don't we just load the ones we have rather than putting the error message? And I was like, I don't know. And so I ran it down with the team, and the answer is we absolutely can. So very soon we'll be getting the feature where if it's over 50,000, we're going to give you the first 50,000 and then provide you a little, hey, we reached the filter limit here. If you want to see more, then change your filters. But that to me is a welcome feature. And while we're at it, I've been rethinking the analysis top area and the filters that we have for you all, and reordering them into the order that I think get used the most, and then updating some functionality. So the other item that makes me so mad on a regular basis, if you guys spend a lot of time in analysis, is by default, once you run a report, the only button you have is clear report. And I don't know how many times I've clicked that button and erased the filters that I spent so long doing. We're going to put a green button to rerun the report here. Like, I don't know why we never did that before. Also going to change just some of the functionality on how we populate some of this data first. So prior, for instance, if you picked an organization and then you wanted to filter a user, you had to start typing the first 3 letters of the user. Sometimes you don't know exactly if it's the first name, last name, first initial, last name, whatever. So we're going to load in some of the data ahead of time. May not be able to load them all for the huge organizations, but at least we're going to give you, hopefully, the ones you're searching for right off the bat. So new things coming on that front. The next item, again, rapid fire here. In Unify, we had a long time the idea that you had to have a public IP address and you had to have an OS, or the device was just not processable in Unify. And I never really liked the idea of presenting devices that we can't do anything with, but we had enough support calls where people were like, why isn't my device showing? And so we threw this tab together. I never, like I said, never really loved it. We are going to be getting rid of the not processable tab and placing the devices into the unmapped like you would think they should have been done to begin with. And then coming probably, I'm going to guess like in the next month and a half or 2, we are going to be updating this screen. This is very busy, but the idea being that we have a new feature coming. It's actually already on production. Y'all just don't know it yet, which we're calling device correlation. And so those unprocessable or not processable devices before, the reason why they weren't was because, again, they might not have a public IP, they might not have an OS, we couldn't do the enrichment and the suggested accounts the way we wanted. But we have enough agents in the system now where, like, my laptop might be in from Microsoft, it might be in from RocketCyber, might be in from Datto EDR, the RMMs, and there's enough overlapping data between them, MAC address, serial number, model number, name, that we can correlate across the devices. And if you've mapped the one on Microsoft, it will actually auto map the other 3, assuming that there's enough overlap between the metadata in the devices. So this should do a few things. It's going to light up products that don't provide us all the data. And it's also going to minimize the amount of manual mapping you have to do. So those are the real quick hits. Now let's go over to probably the more exciting piece. So as part of our announcement last week, KSIM is a major integration into RocketCyber. I have never put this many icons all at once in front of you all before. Our team went nuts and basically did about 30 integrations in 3 months. And so a lot of folks are regularly asking me like, hey, when are you guys going to actually do some more integrations? And well, here's the answer now. So if you are a KSIM partner of ours, and if you're not, you should probably talk to your account manager, you will get this new RocketCyber connection wizard. And within here, you are going to be able to select all the different RocketCyber products that are monitorable. And then I can set up which ones are going to be globally assigned. So picture that my baseline that I'm going to use for all of my partners or all my clients. And whether I want it to be on or just available to be used for those different organizations as part of this template. And then I come in and I can map my different organizations. So I map my RocketCyber org to my SaaS alerts org, and I can choose whether I'm using the global list that we just set up before, or whether I want to override it and have a single set for this one particular organization. And then again, I can decide which products I am going to expose to that particular organization, and whether I want it to just be on right off the bat, or whether I want it to just be available for them to choose to add it. And then once I've mapped that, the RocketCyber integration is complete, and we will begin to pull in RocketCyber data into the analysis module and the RocketCyber devices into the Unify module. And one of the major benefits of doing this and getting this data into SaaS alerts or into KSIM, I'm getting used to saying that now, is that we now have the ability to do the Unify enrichment of device data. So if you're a RocketCyber partner today and you get an event log monitor, you don't really know the user that's associated to that particular device automatically. By marrying the SaaS alerts data to the RocketCyber data, KSIM now is able to make the connection between a user and its devices, or their devices, or a device and its users. And additionally, indicators of compromise. So the new feature that Amanda's team released recently, we now have the ability to create IOCs based on the RocketCyber data. And soon, maybe, eventually, possibly, respond actions. The first one that we've released so far is a Datto EDR isolate device action inside respond that can be triggered from SaaS activity. So again, in my world, first, I'm just going to say industry first, who knows, somebody else can correct me, but being able to take device actions based on SaaS activity, or eventually being able to make SaaS actions based on device activity, I hope. So that was the speed run of things. And there is so much more coming that I'm looking at releasing. I'm excited. So that's what I got.
Wow, really well done, Adam. I'm sure there's some questions here. I know Andy's got one queued up. I got one, but let's, Enrique, can you repeat it again, Adam?
You'll have to catch the recording.
Andy.
Adam, on the analysis tab, could we set up and save filter templates so that we could load up filters more rapidly for analysis purposes?
I love that idea. I do love that idea.
Because we could actually label them, and then we could say, hey, let's do threat hunting this way. If we need to.
I really like that idea. Yeah, well, Ben's got the hack. Yeah, you can actually bookmark the URL, and the URL includes all the filters in it. So today,
makes it a real simple thing to do.
You can do that, yeah. I also am dreaming of editable columns as well, but that one's a little more tricky on the UI front.
Or putting in filters within the column that allows us to take that template and begin to drill down within that much more easily.
That exists today. So you can filter on columns in our current release.
With a template in place.
Oh, with a template. Come on. You're like, you always got to one up, Andy. I already told you that the first idea was good. Just
this one's a good too.
Andy, first Adam came to us, former MSP, then Ben. You were in the running, but I think you just knocked yourself out.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, you were like George Costanza with that first one, Andy. You could have just
there you go
for the day. Adam, what's the so like if I'm Ben and I build an IOC, am I able to deploy that across tenants at Ben's level? Like, I'm just trying to get a sense of.
Yeah, that would be a great question for Ben. I know you're cooking something up, and that might be a good segue into your next section. Short story is that the IOCs is in my world at this point are in your particular tenant and for your organizations only, but Ben's at a higher level on the org chart than I am, so I think he sees higher visibility.
I will say that we're building a brand new tool that will allow Ben and company to deploy IOCs and respond rule at scale and a much higher degree of efficiency than we have today. But we're excited. I'm excited because this is a brand new tool that we get to build.
Leron, I know a dangerous question to ask any development team, but is
timeline?
Yeah, ETA on that, or is it
timeline?
Did Jim put you up to that, Andrew?
Yeah, I know. Is you talking to Jim right now? As Jim knows, the timeline on the timeline for that brand new tool is end of June. So I can't clarify this enough. The timeline for the timeline.
The timeline for the timeline.
In other words,
it means it's still being scoped, and
right.
we can't even determine when a delivery timeline is. But we've decided, or Leron has decided, he's imposed on himself, I'm going to be able to tell you by the end of June.
By the end. Okay, I see, Leron. By the end of June, you'll know the lead time for it.
Yes.
Got it. Yeah, Chip, because I keep coming back to like once that tool is in place, the possibility to share and build IOCs amongst 40,000 MSPs. Do you know what I mean? Or whoever.
Andrew, that's coming as a follow-on feature for IOCs. We wanted to deploy IOCs first so people can build them, and then there's going to be a community feature built on top of it within Q2, Q3.
Yeah. It's like, the reason I'm kind of giddy / just mentioning this, Leron. So back in 2016, the original idea of Perch, way back in the day, right, when Aaron first came into the industry, was because he came from enterprise and threat sharing, right? Like he was in a large bank, and the FS, if you guys understand ISACs and ISAs at all, but the banking industry, the FS ISAC, the financial services ISAC, is the largest threat sharing community. And arguably part of the reason for that, right, Chip, is the fact that if you're a bank, part of your regulatory requirements are threat sharing, right? So it's not only just, is it, important that other banks might be seeing something that could compromise yours, et cetera, but it also is when you get audited by the FFIEC, they ask about what you do in threat sharing. Well, the idea, like back in the day when I was heading up security strategy for ConnectWise, was to build an ISAO that I know awesome people like Ann that got taken over by CompTIA and now GTIAN. But this lends itself to, finally, I think, the good work that, they're doing, but this could, really bridge a lot of things that the MSPs have not been able to do very easily before and readily, because MSPs don't have threat they don't have tips, as they're called, right? Chip, they don't have threat intel platforms readily available in their orgs, or threat intel people. So
yeah, I mean, look, we started down this path when we opened up templates in Respond, and to a lesser extent Fortify, which hasn't had a lot of uptake. There's been quite a bit of uptake of the templates in Respond, and the IOC templates expand on that. And you're right. I mean, there's been opportunity here to create a clearinghouse for all MSPs to take advantage and leverage each other's learning and knowledge and experience of how threat change develop and evolve, and constantly be updating it. So, you know, we have always been trying to build community around it, but we're also sensitive to the fact that not everybody wants to share their stuff. And, you know, we know in the end that part of our mission is for MSPs to be as successful as possible. And some people want to differentiate, and we're okay with that too. Like there's no forcing component here. But we hope we see as much or more adoption in the IOC space as we did in Respond.
Yeah. Just last thing, and I'll go to Enrique, who's had his hand up. But what you can do, right, is you and Liron and I talked a little bit offline about this, is you could implement a traffic light protocol in this, where if it is like what Enrique just experienced, right? Enrique, if you said, okay, well, we're seeing, you know, this IP, you know, doing these things, and, you know, you anonymized it, right? It's something that's actively, right, being exploited. It doesn't mean you need to say it's Enrique's MSP that's sharing it. You could just anonymize it, right? And then say, hey guys, or I could see certainly Corey and team doing a ton of that, right? Corey, I mean, you guys see tons of stuff.
The way that we have the feature scoped out is you can submit IOCs anonymously or with accreditation. It's up to you when you submit them.
Yeah.
Or not at all.
Yeah, not at all. Yeah, definitely.
Being anonymous, right, Chip?
Well, no, when I say not at all, Andrew, what I'm saying is that there's no requirement when the platform will not automatically share an IOC that's created by, you know, an individual SaaS Alerts customer with everyone. They've got to proactively choose, hey, we want to contribute this to the overall library of IOCs. When you choose to contribute it, it can be with attribution. Hey, you know, this is from one MSP, or it can be anonymous. It can be either way.
Yeah, fair. Okay.
I mean, it just occurred to me right this second, but I wonder if something that we do, and this is just a complete stream of consciousness here, is that we encourage people to contribute by letting them know if they want access to the global library, they need to contribute, either anonymously or otherwise.
Right.
So you don't have people who are just lurkers and cherry pickers. I don't know. There's a lot to think about there.
Yeah.
You know, our community of partners has more than doubled in size since you know, the acquisition in October. And there are so many people, you know, that are not on this call, right? Like this is a core group that's been sticking with us for a long time. Most of whom have been around for years now. So, you know, we got to continue to expand this as well and get a broader and broader reach.
Yeah. But interesting, a threat sharing committee could do that. Chip.
Yeah. Yep.
Very, very strongly view that. So, Enrique.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, I think, Andrew, what I interpreted from your question was, can we share or start sharing the actual IOC incidents, not so much the templates? That's what I kind of understood by anonymizing the data, have some type of transparency to where we say, okay, this is 1,000 a day. I mean, hopefully not, but this is kind of what's going on, and have that actual data, our data to look at. That's kind of what I understood you were mentioning.
That's where it would head, right? When Liron eventually has this, you know, tool in place, is that's the whole goal of the threat sharing, is that like you'd want Andy to know, hey man, there's this threat actor from this IP address who's doing these things. This is the attribution. This is what we're seeing.
Yeah, I think right when we do wins in the week, and Enrique provided a perfect example, right? He talked about Russia and Tor. We could build an IOC that says, go look for an activity off of RocketCyber data for Russia and Tor. And out of this call, not only are we talking about these things now, but by the following week, we have an IOC that is specifically designed to handle that scenario.
And that's kind of where I raised my hand, Liron, on that council we were at, and no one wanted to vote. My idea of sharing and automating is kind of having that to where I could say, Enrique, one MSP, I'm totally fine with that. When SaaS Alerts, KSIM, and company create this out of the Thursday call or whatever thread intel feed it is, I want you to automatically push it to all my customers or X tenants for it, because that's the way we're going to kind of minimize the 0 day.
Yeah, look, as a software company, we always want to be careful about automatically turning things on for our customers that you do not opt into or turn on. So by default, we will release these as templates, and it's up to you to go in, deploy the template, and then choose whom to deploy it for.
Yeah, in other words, you don't want to be the master SOAR, right? Later on is what you're saying.
Well, because somebody gets locked out or it's way too noisy, and they're like, "Who is the idiot that did this?" And they're like, "Oh, wait a second."
You don't want to take responsibility.
Enrique, you can over automate, Andrew, to the point where people lose control, and that's dangerous also.
Well, you also don't want that responsibility, Chip, as a software company pushing that kind of stuff. So I
No, but if we could turn it on to say, hey, I'm Enrique's the master SOAR more on that always wants it automatic. So if I check mark that in SaaS Alerts, I want anything that falls into this bucket to automatically go in, kind of thing. I don't want to have to come every template when I'm in the middle of a flight without Wi-Fi.
That's why you sign up for the managed SaaS Alerts with Ben.
Yeah, but I don't want Ben to be in trouble. So I'm taking the risk for him. So that was not my question. I still have my one question. How do we turn on the KSIM if we already signed up? Is it that from the K side or the S side?
It's going to be on the SaaS Alert side, and we plan to let everybody in next Thursday.
Awesome. Thank you.
May I ask
Andy.
2 questions? One is the KSIM is going to fall under, will Ben's group for managed SaaS alerts take that into account when this is enabled and we start getting more feeds there? Will that be something that Benjamin includes in the managed SaaS alerts?
It's going to be 2 different services, but there are certainly going to be some overlaps between the types of things that we're looking for between the 2 systems.
Okay, and a follow-up question. Based on what comes back from the SIEM, or SIM, however I'm supposed to pronounce it, we could create potentially content for data security awareness training if we had a feedback loop for that, and we could drive that back through Bullfish as an example.
You could, yeah.
That would be really helpful if we could begin to extract and build those cases up, because as something begins to move, this would add value to that part of the integration. I seeing a feedback loop is what I'm trying to get at to other products and services that add value to our customer relationship.
Yeah, we plan to do a lot of cross-product, cross-company integrations, starting with the SASE Cloud VPN integration that I spoke about many times.
All right, and thanks, Enrique.
All right. All right. I think Mr. Liron is up next. Bear with me. Yeah, Liron, do you want to? You and I had a really interesting conversation on the floor at Kaseya where you were looking at the extension notification in a different light, right? And so maybe you can pose out what you were thinking to everybody and get their thoughts.
Sure. So we know that our coverage extension notification that was released very shortly after SaaS Alerts became a company and was really instrumental in our early days of growth. And Jim will often say that those coverage extension notification letters that our MSPs would send out would have a 90% conversion rate. And the idea, for those of you that are not aware, is that you tell all of your customers, hey, we have this new monitoring tool, and it tells us when we have logins from countries where we're not expecting, and it's going to cost X more per user. And we're deploying this for everyone. 93%, says Anthony, I'd love to see the data behind that, but that's a different conversation. You send this email to your entire customer base, and the customers have to actually opt out and say, no, I do not want you to monitor for abnormal or suspicious login events. So in speaking with Andrew and kind of some other MSPs during Connect, I was thinking to myself, I think we should experiment and do the exact same thing with Fortify, right? Our data tells us, and Microsoft tells us, the average secure score is 45%. That is really, really low and pretty poor. So I put together an initial template for basically a similar type of email that you send to your customer that says your secure score is 45% or whatever it happens to be. This means you're 55, and thanks to Chip for sticking this part in, you're at 55% at risk for having this thing compromised, and it's going to cost X more per user, but we are going to increase your Microsoft Secure score, and then click here if you want to opt out, right? That's kind of the idea. And I'm all about experimentation and trying to see if this works. So what I was hoping to get out of this call is if anybody is interested to give this a shot and see what the response is. Enrique is raising 2 hands. I like that. So I'll get that to you, Enrique. But the idea is to send this out, see what customers say, because to me, this is another monthly recurring service that you can stick on there. And the beauty of it is it's not a one and done, right? You have to continuously kind of monitor this, but with the Fortify tool, you can increase the secure score a lot faster and more efficiently than you could with just Microsoft by itself. So number one, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. And I already hear from some partners who are like, well, we do project-based billing, right? So I would say this is another alternative way to create additional monthly recurring, right? So first question is, what do you guys think about this? And the second question is, any volunteers besides Enrique?
Look,
I may be open, at least for some customers, not all of them. And
I
what do
love-
you do? I got a customer that has both Google Workplace and Microsoft 365 because they're a research arm on one side of the business and they're retail, I guess, on the other is a way to think of that. How do you handle those situations?
Well, for Fortify, you cover the Microsoft 365.
Yeah.
We can't cover Google Workspace yet with that product. And honestly, it's not roadmap yet to do that because there's so many other things that we're doing. But which side of the house is research and which side of the house is
Google, because it's with the universities.
Yeah, that's what makes sense.
So that was one thing that comes up as, they're on the same network. I have to kind of begin to look at segmenting these out more aggressively.
So, Rich has a question. Rich, is that because you're with Managed SaaS Alerts for Ben?
Yeah.
So do you see that, Ben? He has a question on that for you.
I figure Ben is probably
without issues. No, actually, we're not. We've run into several issues where people we tried to imply like something simple like MFA for all users, but they didn't have at least a P1. So our system defaults to enable security defaults to accomplish that task. And we run into an issue where security defaults will disable a number of things, including like legacy authentication. And that means like sometimes printers will break. So we've had to be very methodical about how we recommend Fortify actions, and we're developing a process that will gather a lot of detailed information about the organization before we make recommendations, just because we don't know everything, and a lot of times sometimes the partner doesn't as well, and applying something very simple can have a domino effect on other things. So we take our time. Yeah, we're not in a big hurry.
Yeah, Rich, just to add on to that, many meetings ago not long after we first released Fortify, we ran into situations where partners were setting a policy that required FIDO keys across everybody in the organization, and they were locking themselves and their customers out because they weren't reading the fine print. Like if you've looked at Fortify, we put a ton of explanation in there about what it's going to do if you apply a particular policy, but not everybody reads them. So we went through about a month's period where at least once a week, some partner or other called us up and said, "Oh my God, I can't get into anything." And the fix was simple. It was just deselecting that element in Fortify, and away they go. But nevertheless, it's Microsoft policies, whether it's you're talking about, device policies or 365, can be dangerous. Andrew, it's the great tug of war that's always existed between accessibility, and security. Like, they are a balance all the way through. Every choice you make on security is likely to impact accessibility for product and data. So,
Well, Chip, I still requested the big flashing red lights, the old HTML ones with the little sirens and everything. I want that for that particular control.
All right. Any other takers?
So I ran into an issue with trying more to Fortify. Sorry about the delay, but I tried to do the one that controls the application consent, and I only did a few customers. And what I ran into is when they kind of download a tool that you're interested in trying out, it doesn't work. And they get, I think, a notice that says, consult your admin. And then we had to basically undo the policy to be able to apply to let them download it because we didn't know like how to tailor the darn thing for specifically what they want to, the applications they were installing. So now we're not applying that anymore. We're just going to go into a hold mode and see what might be a better way to do that.
It didn't send an email to like global admins or something. I'm not really exactly positive who it's supposed to target, but it's not even a fill outable area. I don't think when under Entra.
yeah, I don't think it's a variable. So, I mean, that is a catch-all control, Rich, to do exactly what it did, right? Is to prevent people from installing enterprise apps unless they're an admin with authority. So it prevents a user from testing any application that's going to be installed as an enterprise app. That's actually its goal.
And we were trying to do that because of the one account that got hacked and the Perfect Data app got loaded, and we stopped it right, minutes after that. But if I saw that Fortify template and I said, well, we should have that in place. And when I started to push it out, then we ran into this problem of good-natured application installers getting a roadblock. And the problem that we have is our MSP is not set up to get the communication messages that go to admin. We don't have admin email accounts on all of our tenants that route email alerts back to us. If we have to get things going through the PSA for us to know about it.
Got it.
Okay. Ben, you wanted to talk a little about Perfect Data.
Yeah. Well, DJ brought it up, and that's a great segue, actually. Didn't ask for a better one. So there was an article. I don't know if you have the article, Andrew, or not. I can post it here in the chat, and I can share my screen if you'd like.
Do you want to, you tell me. I got it right here.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. That way I don't accidentally share my taxes. All right, so this one is something that we've always encouraged people to set up a rule for to monitor for Perfect Data installation, even though it is a verified publisher. They have recently renamed themselves to mail_backup. So anybody that is running those rules, they need to at least add mail_backup and to that list of applications that you look out for. We have checked our logs recently in the last like 30 days, and we already see it popping up on systems and accounts in our database. So it is active and live and something you should be aware of. And thank you to DJ at SpearTip for bringing this article up to me.
Benjamin, is this covered by MSA, going in and adjusting our policies for that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful.
Yep.
You're already seeing threat actors try to use it, Ben?
Yes. Yeah, we've already seen it started to be installed and loaded and everything. And MSA is going to be making some improvements on our rules. We're going to be using a lot more of the IOC stuff too. So that'll be deployed hopefully pretty soon.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Corey, are you still with us by chance? Is Corey still here?
We had Zach a minute ago. I think Corey is gone.
Corey's gone. Okay. It's interesting because I came across this. I sent it to you, I think, this weekend, Chip. And then I saw Corey posted. That's why I was calling on Corey. But is Zach
What?
gone as well?
Am I reading this right?
Yeah.
Yes, you are reading this
Are
right.
reading it correct.
Wow.
Yes. So yeah, Chip, you're far more technical than I am, but maybe if you could just give your thoughts on this in terms of, why in God's name would Microsoft say, something that's so, security 101. I've revoked passwords because I think a threat actor's in here, but lo and behold, no, I haven't. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did a lot of reading, Andrew, back and forth on this. And I understand both sides of the logical argument that Microsoft makes that it's a feature, not a glitch. I think I fall personally more on it's a glitch side than it's a feature side. Like I'd rather have someone be required to call up an administrator and ask for a password reset if they screwed things up somehow than leave this in place. But nevertheless, Microsoft constructed this, way back in the beginning of how they implement RDP, to allow for folks whose machines get disconnected from a domain to use a locally cached password to connect to an RDP session, with the notion that they would be smart enough as soon as they do that to go in and change their password. This blew up the internet. There's lots of people out there that use RDP religiously that say, hey, this is a nothing burger. It saved my ass more than once where I screwed up a password. And I couldn't connect, to a domain controller to manage it. And other people that are saying this is obviously like a ridiculous security violation. I just read an article this morning, another 190 million passwords, popped up on the dark web that, are obviously commonly reused kind of stuff, and this is a potential hole. I thought it was particularly important to bring up in this group because I know we have a lot of folks that use RDP in their businesses, Nerdio and others. I don't know if those solutions do anything to overlay this and prevent it. Honestly, I don't think I've ever come across this because even when we were running Cloud Workspace, which was one of the first products in the space for MSPs, even before Nerdio and the others were around, we would never allow for this kind of activity inside our own business. So, and no one ever flagged it to us and said, hey, I'm logging into an RDP session with with a completely expired password on my local machine. So it was a shocker to me. We did use our own service broker, so I think we probably were immune to this, but I don't know. Interested in comments from the field here. I know we have a lot of folks that use RDP as part of their solutions as an MSP. So
I think rotating passwords should make a difference, should it not? And once it's changed.
Do you know how far it goes back? Like if I change my password 100 times in a row, do you know how far back it'll go?
I do not. I didn't find any literature that expresses that.
Because we use IT glue to rotate passwords on a regular basis. So I'd really be interested to see how that works.
Yeah, I mean, anybody that's got RDP environments, I would encourage you to, jump off if you're connected to a domain controller locally, get off it, connect that device to the internet some other way, 5G or whatever, and see if you can log in with a cache password on that RDP definition. So this is a password that would be cached in your actual RDP file definition. Everybody know what I'm talking about? Like you can create another file that has everything cached in it. So that's where you would pick this up. And I would give it a try.
I think it's totally crazy. Can you imagine if a bank did this? If you're locked out, it would save on their support costs. If you're locked out, just get in with an old password.
Yep. I mean, it really is counterintuitive to all of us who are in the security space, but Microsoft, sticks by the fact that they think this is a feature. I mean,
They did security training for this.
Second time in 30 days we've had this. The last time it was Google with that whole little hack, looking at the not evaluating the headers on checking for spam. So I don't know.
Wow.
So Andy, I know you use RDP in your business. Maybe some of you folks who do, I don't personally anymore, but go play with it. Or back next week.
With ABD. So we're rotating passwords regularly. I mean, daily actually. So it'd be interesting to see how that takes effect.
Well, I think it's probably a wrap for today, Chip. That was a nice way to cap things off.
Nice way to end a call with a little bit of paranoia for everybody.
Not a little.
Yeah, fun time.
Microsoft is making us secure. Isn't it wonderful?
Check your Sentinel-1 EDR update as well while you're at it. Did you all see that one, the vulnerability?
What's that, Enrique?
Sentinel-1, when they're updating the EDR, it actually stops the service. And hackers were able to put some malware to trigger when the service was stopped and start encrypting before the EDR agent was updated. Been a big thing. Came out in January, but been a big thing lately.
I'm dropping the article in the chat. I just saw it this morning and sent it to my crew. It has something to do with using the ability to downgrade or upgrade the agent. And by triggering it, threat actors can basically, insert at the right time and bypass the protection.
Thanks for sharing, Gary.
Thank you, guys. Always
a
joy.
Have a good one. See you next week.
Everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye.